I wish to say greetings to all those who find this video and decide to watch it. I go by Quarantman here, and that is what I will be known as. Today I am here to discuss the recent draft for the Mario Super Sluggers draft tournament that has recently come out. Now, just before we jump into my thoughts and feelings about each team, I wish to give a little bit of context on me, this draft tournament, and the game. I have seen more or less the entirety of Season 3 and 4. I've seen very little of Season 2 and only the draft of Season 1. As for the game, I'm decently knowledged, not great, but I still believe that I have some thoughts that I really wish to share. And more importantly, I wish to hear your thoughts on my thoughts, essentially. Maybe some of your thoughts on the teams. So if you could leave a comment at any point during the video that you agree with or not agree with, I would greatly appreciate it. But anyways, with all that being said, let's get into the teams. First up, the Mario Fireballs. So what we have here is what I see as an incredibly solid team. I mean, with 4 captains, it's kind of hard to go wrong. But in this case, I think it is especially solid as it still seems to be very balanced. You have Peach and Daisy, who are really good pitchers. You have Mario, who is a good backup pitcher, or relief pitcher if you prefer. We have Birdo, who is a really good outfielder, and Yoshi, who can also supplement Birdo if need be. Also, even beyond that, the team seems very balanced with some really speedy characters alongside some really powerful characters. All that being said, I feel as though Red Magic Koopa was a bit of a wasted pick. It's not that he's a bad character, but Red Magic Koopa, or Santa as they call him, is more so a relief pitcher, which I feel like they already have. Beyond that, he doesn't really have much chemistry here, and his outfielder role is kind of limited usage when he's next to Birdo and Yoshi. But other than that, I think this is a very solid team, barring the rather worthy performance that the GM seemed to have within the last season. Still, this is a quite solid team, and I wish him the best. Moving on to the Wario Muscles, I don't think it'll be much of a surprise that I have a hard time knowing what to say about it. However, with the 2 extra Miis in Morbius and Jake Paul being added, I think that they very much can be a very valuable asset in bridging the major issue with this team, which is its very spastic chemistry. As some of you may already know, Wario and Waluigi can only synergize with each other barring Miis, so I think that Miis will be an excellent way to circumvent that. However, aside from that, I feel as though that this is a not very defensive team, but again, that's kind of difficult to say. But outside of that, I definitely feel as though the general manager for this team has stepped up his game a bit and has definitely made the most important change in a proper relief pitcher for arguably the best pitcher in the game in Waluigi. For those who don't know, last season Waluigi was seen as the pitcher without any real pitchers outside of that. So they really just turned to Wario as the secondary one. Although I feel like Blooper would have been the better option, but here none of that matters. You just have Waluigi and Magic Koopa as well as one of the two other people as a backup. So overall, I think that this team is more solid than last season, but it still has some issues that I hope will be patched by the Miis. Moving along to the Luigi Knights, and honestly, I gotta pull out my notes for this one. Honestly, a massive downgrade. It feels like it only wins in certain specific circumstances. Those being that if their heavy hitters can really hit home runs, or if their pitchers can really go through no-hit games. Because I feel as though their fielding is limited and their running is rather slow. To break down why I think this is the case, I think the best way of looking at it is to look at the overabundance of pitchers they have. They have King Boo, they have Boo, they have Luigi, they have Magic Koopa, and they have Toadsworth. First of all, you don't need 5 pitchers to get through a game. You realistically only need 2, 3, maybe 4 in order to get through a game. And secondly, why was Toadsworth taken? Again, you don't need another pitcher, but more to the point, what are you going to use Toadsworth for on a team like this? Realistically, the best thing to do here, I would imagine, is to just trade him as soon as you can, because he's just going to be dead weight according to both this team composition and last season, where he was deemed as the worst pitcher in the entire league. Moving on from pitchers, there is another problem though. And that's that while batting can really make up for lack of movement speed, that doesn't seem to be the case in the league. It is very rare that even the heaviest hitters hit home runs. So, in this case, going for a strategy like that, while is admirable, is not very practical. So, overall, Luigi Knights, I'm sorry, but I just don't like this team. As far as the Diddy Monkeys go, honestly, I feel as though most of what I would say here is similar to the Mario Fireballs. Very balanced, very, very good. A bit of an issue with pitchers, but a lot of them have shown their abilities and subs can happen. But also, in a similar vein, I feel as though at least one of these players, namely either Goomba or Shy Guy, are going to be left in the dust for almost the entire season, depending on what color they give to the Mii Mario. Aside from that, I don't really have a whole lot to say. Heavy hitters, you have speedsters, you have some decent fielders, and you have some decent chemistry here and there. So yeah, that's about it. Let's move on. Moving on to the Bowser Jr. rookies, and we see two decent problems. Number one is the abundance of heavy hitters. As I mentioned before, I don't really like that, mainly due to the idea that it's not very efficient to have a bunch of heavy hitters rather than runners and fielders. Defense wins games. But also, this team also seems to have a decent drought of proper pitchers. Magikoopa seems to be the only really good one. Maybe Paragoomba could sub in and maybe DK, but again, those are maybes. So I don't know. Maybe the pitching won't be that bad, but overall, I feel as though that this team is still relying on a strategy that doesn't really seem to work. We also run into an issue that seems to be a general lack of proper chemistry. I don't know. Maybe it's less severe than I think it is. But overall, it looks like it's very sporadic in between characters that just wouldn't benefit as well from it. For example, Bowser has quite a bit of chemistry across the board, but what exactly are you going to use him for? This is a tournament that doesn't really utilize items, so essentially the benefits would have to come from the field. But because he is so slow, realistically you probably wouldn't put him in the outfield where he would best be able to use the chemistry. So he would have to be in the infield. I don't know. These are issues that that might be that may be less severe than I think they are, but overall I feel as though this team is going to struggle quite a bit, especially against opponents who are fast runners that can just zoom around the bases. While I think they will do decently, I don't think they're going to necessarily win. But speaking of fast runners, let's get to the team that I was extremely excited to get to once I decided to make this video. Alright, here we are. The Yoshi's Eggs. This team is not the best team on this roster, not by a long shot, but good lord is it not what I expected. And I love it for it. Once the now disbanded Birdo Bows, which is the only team that had proper alliteration, the Yoshi's Eggs now is a total lightweight team. Every single character here is a great runner and... yeah, great runner. And so this team's defense is going to be very interesting. For starters, Yoshi's everywhere outfield. Tongue catches, tongue catch, tongue catch, tongue catch. Very simple strategy, and as far as I've seen, it's been effective. The only issue will come up when stars are used, as trying to catch it, whether it bounces or not, will cause a massive delay in order to allow the opponent to run through the bases. But beyond that, I think this is going to be an exciting team to watch. On offense, we have a team that essentially just wants to do three things: steal, and hit a home run with Pianta. That's essentially going to be their entire game plan. And I love this team for taking such a very risky strategy. Because due to weak hitters, chances are it's either going to be stopped before it can reach the outfield or it's going to be caught in the outfield. Which is why I love this team. And I really hope they do well, despite how risky it is. So, those are my thoughts on all of the competing teams. Each one has their own advantages and disadvantages, and I just hope to see some good games. As for who I think is going to win and who is going to be eliminated, I think that the Luigi Knights are actually going to do the most poorly of the bunch, followed up by the Wario Muscles, as I feel as though there's too many flaws to cover up them all. As for the rest of the playoffs, I think that the finale will be the Yoshi Eggs versus the Diddy Monkeys. And I feel as though between the two, the Diddy Monkeys are going to win. And so, with all that being said, those are my thoughts. If you could leave a comment as to what you thought of them, I would greatly appreciate it. And who knows, maybe you'll change my mind. Or maybe you'll strengthen my mind. We'll see. Anyways, have a good day, and we'll see them on the field.